Greetings everyone, welcome to my Kasumi tutorial breakdown. Alright, before I get started, I just want to give a shout out to Panic It's Tyler and Render and Star, who have put some excellent combo and tech guides, and will also be on hand this evening to help answer any questions that you guys may have during the stream. I also want to note that during this tutorial there is going to be a fair amount of overlap with Alan Paris's, who I'll just abbreviate to AP. To Alan Paris, to AP's Kasumi beginner tutorial, mainly because a lot of the kind of details he had in his tutorial video do still apply to higher levels of play, but the way how he set it up was mainly focused around letting players get their kind of feet wet with Kasumi and to get them started on the right path. Like this video may seem like a bit of an extension of that, if you may. Alright, so here we go. Alright, just to get the general things out of the way first. By and large, Kasumi is a rush down and counter hit fishing character that excels at CQC, also known as close quarters combat, or just fighting in close, and excels with mobility along with having solid defense, which is all courtesy of her strike speed, powerful long manipulated strings, quality throws, good movement options, along with her which is usually also comes assisted from her parries and her holds. She is under the lightweight the lightweight class division, which does allow her to be juggled a fair bit after being launched, but quite frankly that's to be expected from someone with their overall speed and mobility. Alright, just get down to it right now. Alright, Kasumi's her speed in general is very fast. I mean, just for poking, she's got her 9-frame jab, 11-frame 6P, and 12-frame 2P. Alright, so I mean, with these, she also gets complemented with a 11-frame high kick, 14-frame mid kick. She technically has a 12-frame mid kick, but I don't really advise that you use it as a poke, because her 7K is more like what's referred to in other fighting games as like a DP. So basically it could be used as like a get off me move, but by and large 7K is mostly just used as like a interrupt, or very commonly used during juggle. So if you're pretty much certain that the move's going to hit, that's when you're generally going to use it. Because as you can see right here, it's -30 on block and does not, and generally it has the ability to transition into a teleport, but on block you can't do that. So if you end up leaving yourself at -30, what that means is that the opponent can go basically punish you with whatever the hell they want. They can throw you, they can kick you, they can could go for like a guaranteed launch, guaranteed sit down stun. Like with Ayane, she could like easily like punish this with like her 4K, for instance. But just going on now. Alright, so just going on with her, just continuing on with her pokes here. Alright, so I ended up saying that she has, for her kicks, 11-frame high kick, 14-frame mid kick. She also has a track and mid punch, P+K, which is comes out at 14 frames, which is for a mid hidden track and move is really good. I mean, it technically has follow-ups also, P+K P, and P+K. Unfortunately, both options are technically unsafe, especially the low kick, but it's a mix-up option, and you even have the ability to transition into her teleport stance, transition into her Hoshimpo stance, which is a special high crush stance that allows her to advance while going under highs. So I mean, by and large, when you're using Kasumi, I mean, straight up, she's faster than pretty much any other character in Dead or Alive 5, including last round, on every hit level, and has the speed advantage against pretty much any opponent. And she also has a 14 frame kick that also has the ability to launch on if it's on counter hit. So I mean, with these speeds though, I mean, like, the only way how pretty much an opponent is beating her out is with some sort of evasive or crush action. I mean, so basically in neutral, Kasumi is always faster. So in terms of sheer speed, the average opponent, or pretty much almost no opponent's really going to beat her out in speed. So if you're like reading your opponent's face, the only thing you really would have to worry about is whatever their defensive options are, such as with holds, parries, crushes, special sidesteps. I mean, stuff like that. So pretty much just not stuff that's not just straight up. Yeah. So with Kasumi though, I mean, she's a speed demon of this game. I mean, although her rush down is not quite the same as say like Kokoro's rush down. I mean, Kokoro's pretty damn fast herself, but Kasumi is even faster. Although obviously Kokoro has a considerable advantage over Kasumi, is that Kokoro is miles more safe. Like, Kasumi is actually one of the least safe characters in the game. I mean, yeah, she doesn't struggle with that as much as her clone Phase 4, but that's obviously for a different time. I mean, that's a different story. Generally speaking, if you finish most strings with if you finish most strings or whatever with Kasumi and it gets blocked, you're gonna be unsafe. So in that case, the recommendation, of course, is obviously don't go to the end of your strings very often. All right, but I'll just continue with the general overview now of Kasumi, which I'm still doing anyway. But all right, so Kasumi is considerably well-rounded overall. I mean, she succeeds in a lot of categories. Like, I mean, if you just want like a kind of like a go-to character which can be reliable in like almost any matchup, Kasumi is usually a good choice for that. However, her one of her weaknesses I find is that her overall effective range generally requires her to be like no further than like mid-range. Like, you want to be like around like where your 3K can reach, for instance, most times. Because 3K and 4P are generally like what you're going to use if you're not stayed in your opponent's face most of the time. So I don't really recommend that you try and like turtle with Kasumi too much. I mean, the only time I would ever really recommend that is if you're fighting an opponent or a character, someone like say Zack, for instance, that has really good rush down or mix-up pressure. Then what you could do is that instead of just going in there and just mashing buttons or whatever, you can kind of hover around mid-range and run her other playstyle, which I call a counter hit fission. What this means is that you kind of wait for an opponent to either whiff something. I mean, like, it's similar to whiff punish, or you just outright intercept it. Because if you intercept an opponent's attack, most commonly it's going to be with say 4P. You get a counter hit stun, and which provides a lot of frame advantage. See, right there, you get plus 25 if you counter hit someone with 4P. 3K is another poke I tend to use around like mid-range, but it's stun also is okay. I can get your offense started, even though I like the kind of like nosebleed stun that 4P causes, but yeah, these are like the kind of things that you may be counter hitting with. So with Kasumi, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to run like an effective turtling or whiff punishment game compared to characters that have like longer overall range. I mean, if you're wondering about whiff punishers, a lot of it is going to be based around something like her 4 H+K or her back block plus kick. Like, this move is generally quite good for whiff punishment if someone's like whipping something right in front of your face. Then you can use this to whiff punishment. The main thing I like about this move is that, well, on normal hits, it gives you a really nice stun that actually can guarantee follow-ups, where 6P is pretty much like almost always guaranteed. You can probably get some other stuff. Well, 3K can't, or 33K can be, if I can get it right, 33K can be guaranteed after it, but I find that the pushback can make it a little inconsistent, so it may force you to have to like dash in a little bit, but then that could give the opponent a chance to, stagger escape out of it. So when in doubt, just go 6XP, because with this stun, it usually can, let's see, I think it can get staggered down to like about 18, I think. What is it? Yeah, so 18 means that you can get up to 16 frame move. So I'll just lay it down. But the way our DOA's frame system works is that in order to really connect something on a certain frame, you have to add 2 extra frames. So if you want to connect something within plus 18, you only can go up to 16 on I-16 move or 16 frame move. What that means is if you do something that's 17 frames or slower, it won't connect. Like for instance, if they were able to like this, like for instance, like 33K is 16, it can still connect. But if I were to use our other mid kick launcher, it won't. If they actually do a fully stagger it, it's an 18 frame move, so it won't connect the same way. With the Kasumi, let's say, going on with her, just gonna look at her guard breaks. I mean, her guard break game isn't really that, well, it's not really an integral part, because as for guard breaks, the most common one would be like 6/6 PP. In order for this one's actually a negative guard break if you don't teleport. So it requires you to, her 6/6 PP requires you to have to go into her teleport stance, which you can get from pressing forward in order to get the frame advantage. Unfortunately, there is a bit of a weakness to this guard break, is that any opponent, like generally a competent opponent that is paying attention, should be able to hold the second hit on reaction regularly. So you could do it even if the first hit connects, it should be able to. Or well, you can end up doing a critical hold against it. So which is, well, it's a critical hold is similar to a normal hold, but it only does 80% of the damage value. So basically what that is if this either hits on block or hits during stun, then they can hold the second hit. So a lot of times you'll have to just do just the first hit, and you have to really catch the opponent off guard. So what you would have to do is you'd have to condition them to not expect it. And of course, how do you end up conditioning people? You have to make them kind of fear your other options, like the other kind of moves you can do. And if you're wondering, no, her only follow-up off this, her only follow-up off her 6/6 PP is just, or her 6/6P is just 6/6 PP. I don't think there's any other follow-ups off it. Unless you mean, yeah, you can go for a teleport strike, but it's still 6/6 PP. As for other guard breaks, she has another guard break that also happens to be a high. See if we can get it right here. So basically, this is 9 PK, and if you press forward or 6, you'll go into her teleport, which will end up allowing you to gain frame advantage off it. You gain +7. If you don't do it, then it just kind of knocks you away. It says you're at -13, but quite frankly, I don't really think any character can really like do anything against that. I just got a tip here that from max distance, 666 PP can't be crouched or held for max distance, but that's usually kind of hard to do. So what you're doing is trying to connect your move at like the kind of the last possible frame, which can be difficult. But if you could space it, it is. But especially if you're kind of like playing around with Kasumi, a lot of Kasumi players do try to make use of 6.6 PP, and if the opponent does duck under the second hit, same with like Ayane's 6.6 KK4, then you could be crouched under or fuzzy guarded under, and you can get punished fairly badly if they know how to punish the move. So that guard break has to be used somewhat sparingly. But after those, I mean, also as you could see, try again. So you can also use the teleport P+K. This one gives you well, depending on distance, it can give you like a light positive or a slight negative, but that is another one of her guard breaks. Her actual best guard break can almost look kind of gimmicky at first. What it is if you end up doing her 7P, her backflip move from a wall, she can get a +3 guard break off the wall, which in my opinion is more or less her best guard break. Oh, it's a invisible wall. Yeah, I like it though. I mean, it's fancy, it's flashy, and if it hits, it can set up guaranteed. If it hits, it can set up guaranteed follow-ups. I must have hidden that. So I know you can do a lot more. You can do a lot more than that, but it's just like to show an example that you can get a guaranteed 4P, or when she's turning around her 4P launcher off it. All right, I would say probably the most benefit, one of Kasumi's biggest strengths is her string manipulation game. Basically, which is being able to just control how you go about your strings. I mean, with Kasumi's string manipulation is just excellent. Actually, in fact, when you're training Kasumi for the first time, the one thing I actually do recommend is that you go into your command training and try and just familiarize yourself with her strings. Basically just see how see how things end up how they end up flowing and stuff like that. Check out different in the command training, try and see different aspects of it. See, right here with the fight screen info, you have the ability to turn on your moveset. You could turn it on in any screen, but here I'm using it in which includes gameplay screens. I'm using it during training mode, and you can see different strings. When you're first training Kasumi, what I recommend is just kind of familiarizing yourself with her, mainly her 5P or her P strings, so her jab strings, or her along with her also her 6P or forward punch strings. These ones can have lots of different variations you can end up seeing. See, it's just lots of different things you can do with them. As for a string, one that I actually kind of heavily recommend you to try and make use of for both P or 6P is using her forward punch kick, or 6PK. This string here is actually safe on block. Oh shoot! Is actually safe on block. If I can show. All right, right there it says it's -12, but it actually pushes back really far to the point that it pretty much cannot be throw punished unless you end up doing it to an opponent when you back them like all the way into a corner. Like if you end up doing it in a corner, then yes, they are able to throw you. But in open space, it pushes back a fair bit of distance. So when I use Kasumi, I tend to use those strings a lot. Oh, shoot. So because with this though, I mean the opponent can't punish you for that. So I mean once you get the opponent kind of respecting that string, I mean if they don't respect it, then you actually have follow-ups to punish them for that. But you could start to work in the mix-up with it, which is 6P 2K, which is also very delayable. Is mainly to try and compensate for the fact that a lot of Kasumi's moves can be very unsafe on block if you end up like finishing the string. What you end up doing is that you have to free cancel and delay your strings. You have to delay your strings a lot. Because if you just kind of if you just don't mash the buttons a lot and don't delay, then you can kind of like leave yourself open the punishment a lot. So I do tend to free cancel and delay. So basically, what you're doing is just trying to make your opponent guess when it's their turn. Like you don't want you exactly like when they can attack back. So it kind of like locks them down. Just tries to keep them on the defensive and locks them down like as much as possible. Now, overall, I would say that Kasumi's her high, mid, low game is actually really good. I'd say that she has probably one of the best. Well, she has definitely one of the better, but of the speedier characters, she has probably one of the most intimidating and effective high, mid, low games there are in DOA. So I mean, the most common lows I like to utilize, obviously aside from something like a 2P, is like 6P, 2K, and 1K. Alright, from forward facing. Oh, it must be still on counter hit. Like 1K when done in close can provide her plus 14 frame advantage. What that can do is it can allow her to get her 11 frame elbow can be used as a follow-up. 4P could be used. Technically you could use 7K, but I don't really advise it because sometimes it can be a little. It could sometimes be a little finicky, not to mention if the opponent ends up staggering the stun in any way, it will end up getting blocked and you'll be left punishable. So after this, the most common thing I end up doing is you end up just going for elbow. Once the opponent starts holding that, then you can start going for throws. So what they would do is make them think twice about holding it. You can even do it multiple times if you want to just reset the situation, stuff like that. I mean, so you can even get some mild shenanigans with it. But it is a good way. But still though, even if you don't necessarily think about getting any sort of stun follow-up, I mean, it's just, I mean, plus 14 is obviously good frame advantage in general. So you can still use that, take your time, and try and just continue poking. Because the objective here is just to keep the opponent on the defensive. As for also just to let you know about with the 6P, so the 6P 2K. This low can also be done off of her 4P, which is also just as delayable, and you can do it off 3P also. So basically off of any of her standard mid punches, like her 6P is 11 frames, 4P is 12 frames, and 3P is 13 frames. So all of them have the ability to kind of cancel out into the low sweep. So you can end up mixing up your opponent with that. And just further to let you know, the low sweep is a tracking low, so they can't sidestep that either. So you can end up using Kasumi's string mix-ups to end up locking down the opponent and keep them from sidestepping you. I do find that Kasumi's crush game also is also really good. All right, for her go-to low crush, I usually end up using 9K the most. I mean, it causes a hard knockdown, which could set up Oki. It does have a couple follow-ups. I mean, I will let you know the follow-ups are technically unsafe. Like if I were to just show you right here, like either 9K or 9KK right here, minus 14, which means that you can be thrown by a big throw if the opponent is on top of their punishment. And even the high elbow is slightly unsafe at minus 8, which can technically be thrown by an I7 throw. So you do have to be a bit careful with that. In a typical Kasumi fashion, the follow-ups can be very delayable, but if the opponent is paying attention, then yeah, you can just kind of block both. You can block both standing, but still, the main thing you're gonna be doing is just free cancel. It's basically just mainly free cancel the move and not just simply doing this like on an opponent's block too often, or not very often at all. Because I just usually want to do one. When you do get the knockdown, then you do end up setting up her Oki game. After it, you can end up doing another one, although although 4H+K ends up giving you the full 4H+K ends up giving you the full force tech, wake up, and which will also provide you with, there you get plus 23 frame advantage, so you could kind of run a shenanigan there if you want. Like, I like to just kind of snatch throws or mix them up with 6P because this throw can be really hard to, her 8T or 9PT can be very hard to react to. Like, there's actually two differences between it. Like, the animation is very slightly different between 9PT and 8T. I find that 8T comes off as slightly slower than just doing 9PT, so it can make it really hard to react to. Like, if you were to use it in a situation on wake up like this, for instance, where an opponent would have to pretty much be like ducking right away, and it is a throw, so a strike could beat it out, but it would be hard to react to like what option she's doing. But going on with crushes, all right. So 9K or 8P could be used as like common